He comes up to me, and then the first moment I did it clearly that I know who he is. And he told me, yeah, everything what is on the media is not right. And he told me also he had some special informations, and that is the reason why they're all behind him.
What special information does he have?
I don't know. Maybe something with Maddie.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Any time now. The prime suspect in the Madeleine McCann case hinted at a dark secret as he shopped for a phone. Do you think that dark secret is that he abducted Madeleine McCann? According to The Sun, quote, shop manager Farouk Salah Brahmin, 32 years old, said, Bruckner told me he had some information. I don't know if it's the McCann case, but he said he had evidence that could bring the scandal of the century to an end. He said he would end all the accusations against him. He said he can bring his own solution. He said something about USB sticks. The continuing coverage of the Madeleine McCann case via Christian Bruckner almost beggars belief. I must say, it feels to me like most of the time the analysis I'm doing in true crime is just debunking one conspiracy after another. And this seems to be modern true crime coverage. Meaningless shock value over and over and over again ad nauseum. Some people seem to be happy to just go along with it. I certainly am not.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Why, oh why didn't I take the blue pill?
The blue pill is for those who are not critical thinkers and for those who like the paths of least resistance, where you believe whatever you want to believe. Just a few hours ago, I came across this in America from a journalist with a legal background. To say that this is misleading is an understatement.
Breaking news tonight. Barry Morphew, charged in his wife Suzanne's murder, walks free. Yes, you heard me. Walks free.
Morphew is like Bruckner. He's been fitted with a GPS-enabled ankle bracelet. The main difference is Barry Morphew has been charged and is about to face trial for murder, whereas Bruckner has never been charged for murder. In fact, he's just been acquitted on a host of lesser charges. Morphew is out on bail. That is very different from just being free. I'm not sure what is worse. Is it the integrity of people who are telling these stories, or is it the lack of discernment from the people who are just sort of eating it up? It really was quite something to watch a small herd of international press gathered outside the gates of Sende prison near Hanover in northern Germany early Wednesday morning. That was last week. And agape watching their Madeleine McCann cash cow, the gift that won't stop giving, just drive off. Just like that. You can almost imagine them screaming, almost imagine them crying out.
You were the chosen one!
And also, you were supposed to
Bring balance to the force!
But instead, the cash cow was whisked away by his lawyer, suitably enough for vehicle choices in Germany, in a supersized black Audi. Instead of waving to the press, Bruckner did something else. It's not quite clear what. But some among the paparazzi, or whatever it is one can call those photographers who stalk famous criminals, especially those who possibly aren't even involved. If it's not the paparazzi, maybe we can call them the craparazzi. Well, they just weren't prepared to let Bruckner go. Investigative instincts on high alert, the surveillance paid off. Sure enough, this most diabolical of monsters headed straight from prison to a children's playground in the suburb of... Okay, hold on, that's not right. He headed to a McDonald's and was photographed eating a chicken nugget while wearing this bracelet around his ankles. Then, after enjoying his first breakfast out of the slammer, Bruckner next lit up a ciggy and puffed it into the free air. It's not clear what he did after this. It's possible he took off his shoes and socks and walked on the grass barefoot. According to the Mirror, Bruckner left the high-security prison in Sende near Hanover just after 9:15 German time. Well, they've even got the timeline here on Wednesday morning. German police said that he wasted no time in making the most of his newfound freedom. Well, who wouldn't? Photos show the predator will now have to wear an electronic ankle tag for the next 5 years, eating fast food outside a restaurant shortly after leaving jail. Very suspicious behavior, guys. Meanwhile, British investigators have waited until now that he's free, to explore the idea of extraditing Bruckner to the UK to stand trial for charges that weren't even brought against him over the past 3 years in Germany, and for the trial he didn't stand at the end of 3 years of reporting, insisting that he would. And just look at this headline from Birmingham Live, right? Madeleine McCann update as UK police expected in Germany any time now. It sort of implies that at any moment the cops are going to swoop in and maybe arrest him and take him in chains to the UK, and finally everything is going to be resolved. Well, that's the implication. Do you think it's actually going to happen? According to The Guardian, asked if Bruckner could be extradited to face trial in the UK, Rowley said that an offence as serious as murder need not be tried in the country where the crime took place. Okay, great. Rowley, Britain's most senior police officer, said, there are hundreds of questions. One of the reasons we are involved is that murder is, in many situations, extraterritorial, and potentially a murder of a British subject can, in certain circumstances, be charged in the UK. There's only one small problem with that. Even Madeleine's own parents don't think that, they think that she's still alive. And anyway, it goes on to say there are lots of maybes. So at the moment, we are taking stock with the Germans and Portuguese. So there's this talk of extraditing Bruckner. But how can you extradite Bruckner if you don't even know whether Madeleine is alive or not? Now, in terms of extraditing prime suspect Bruckner to the UK, there's just one tiny issue. According to The Guardian, the former head of extradition at the Crown Prosecution Service, Nick Vamos, said, yes, it is feasible. The main obstacle, though, is you need enough evidence to charge before you can extradite. Ah, yes, that pesky thing called evidence. And I just want to put this on screen because it seems as if folks in true crime need this reminder. And I have to say, I feel like I'm dealing with this all the time. If someone doesn't value evidence, what evidence are you going to provide to prove that they should value it? If someone doesn't value logic, what logical argument could you provide to show the importance of logic? And of course, true crime, the way it should be about evidence and about logic. And currently, neither of those seem to matter whatsoever. Now it's really about what somebody says, whether it's shocking, whether it's interesting, whether it's exciting, whether it's popular, whether it's what people want to believe. It's got nothing to do with evidence, and it's got nothing to do with a logical argument. So how can you use logic and evidence to counter those arguments? That's the world we live in today. And when you make an argument, when you say, you know what, I'm not sure if the algorithm is that great, like maybe something needs to be built into the algorithm that sort of verifies certain information so that people aren't led astray, then people twist your words and say, oh, you're trying to introduce censorship. And so people are learning, seems to be, just ways to twist information out of context to create misleading statements. Even when you say something, it's still got to be twisted around. Why can't people just sincerely and honestly tell the truth and be factual and be accurate about what we're talking about? And the answer seems to be there's more of an incentive, there's more of a reward in lying to one another. And that seems to also be something that the algorithm supports, that things that aren't true are more popular, and so you should get paid more for that. Really? Is that going to fuel a good society? And, it hasn't stopped the British media from trying Bruckner in the court of public opinion. It's also interesting that far from Bruckner emerging as a suspect in the Madeleine McCann case organically, independently, via the German police, it was the Brits. Did you know this? It was the Brits who waved their pom-poms at him and have been waving it at him ever since. Because, did you know, Rowley oversaw British police efforts to resolve the case of Madeleine's disappearance early in his career at the Met. Listen to this. He said a previous appeal involving British police had led to Bruckner being identified as a suspect, which led to German police joining the investigation. So the British police basically put up signs saying, look at this guy, right? And so that's how the German police got involved, not because they found out what they found out independently. Makes sense, right? Privately, the Met knows bringing Bruckner before a British court would be unprecedented and difficult. Of course, the media keep implying that it's going to happen any minute now, any second now, but they've been doing that for 3 years. So what is so difficult about bringing charges against Bruckner? Well, it's because of that evidence issue. That was true at the very beginning, and it's still true today. Yet somehow the British cops and the media don't seem to have egg on their faces. They should, though, shouldn't they? And do you remember the Jay Slater case? By the way, there's a documentary coming out tomorrow. If you guys want me to talk about that, let me know in the comments. But that was a foul play case all along, wasn't it? It was foul play all along. There was consensus, especially in the British media, all along until it wasn't. No, it actually just fell down a ravine. Even his mother believes that, even if you don't. It makes one wonder, are people just too clueless to get it right, or are some people who should know better trying to pull the wool over our eyes? And why has that become so easy in this day and age? Have most of us just become lazy thinkers? We sit with our cell phones and just gobble up whatever is in front of us. And I do think this raises a very interesting psychological question. If you are not anchored in reality, let's just say for the sake of argument, you are not anchored in reality, how are you going to find out that you aren't? And how are you going to find your way back? If you'd like me to talk about that, let me know in the comments. But just imagine you, Neo, and you need to decide between this blue pill and the red pill. Well, you're going to need to know to some extent what reality is if you're going to make that choice. Does that make sense? And isn't that a very important choice one's got to make? Not just in one particular instance, but day to day. Aren't we making choices all the time that are based on a perception of reality, but are they reality? Obviously, if your choices are anchored in reality, you're going to live an effective life. You're going to be a person with agency. You're going to be successful. But if your reasoning is disconnected, you're going to struggle probably your whole life. You're going to be caught up in delusions, and someone is going to be taking advantage of that at your expense. Is that the kind of life you'd like to lead? And how long do you want to lead that life before you wake up from it? Anyway, it's certainly food for thought. I do think the Madeleine McCann case is kind of a example, just like the Ramsey case, that if you allow certain things to sort of get away from you, it just festers and festers and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And look how damaging that can be to society, where you ultimately feel like you can't trust law enforcement. You can't trust. Who can you trust? And where does that all start? Well, right at the beginning, when something needs to have been sorted out a certain way. And if that's the beginning, what is the end of this whole long story? Where are we all headed if we keep going down this road? What do you think? Anyway, thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.